relationship between the Domestic Relations Office of Harris County and the Texas Annual Conference of the United Methodist Denomination in Houston, Texas, and Harris County as well. The Domestic Relations Office of Harris County is using 2 United Methodist churches under the administration of the Texas Annual Conference administration. And those churches are Somerset United Methodist Church in Pasadena and St. Stephen's United Methodist Church in Houston on West 43rd Street in the Heights. And that church is also under the administration of the Texas Annual Conference of the United Methodist Denomination in Houston. My father was a United Methodist minister, and he was employed under the Texas Annual Conference administration, and he was a child molester. The Texas Annual Conference administration has a history of employing sexual predators and child molesters who prey on children and minors, and clergy who become sexually involved with minors. And the Texas Annual Conference, unfortunately, failed to inform the Domestic Relations Office of this when they became involved in allowing the Domestic Relations Office to use their churches as visitation sites. The Texas Annual Conference also failed to inform the visiting parents and the custodial parents that they had a history of employing pedophiles and placing them on assignment in their churches under their conference administration. The Domestic Relations Office ordered me to visit our sons at St. Stephen's United Methodist Church in 2019. Without the knowledge that my father, John Chester Dowden, was a United Methodist clergy that was at one time, from the time of 1986 till 2000, was employed under the Texas Annual Conference administration as a United Methodist clergy, and had been placed on assignment on a number of churches within that conference administration until he went on disability through the Texas Annual Conference administration in Houston. And I had 2 attorneys that were also associated with the Texas Annual Conference, and that was Harrison Fisher and Elsie Martin Simon. I also went over the fact and discussed the fact that I had to go before a judge that had a history of deliberately placing the child in the custody of the father because he hated women. There was a woman named Kathy Barnes that lost custody of her son. He was 5, and her 5-year-old son tested positive for cocaine. Randy Wallace did a story on it, and it took her a year to get her son back. Usually, when you have a judge that prefers one parent over the other, as far as that is more partial to mothers, despite circumstances, or more partial to fathers, even if they are unfit to take care of the child, that judge will award that parent custody, even if they could have a history of drug use or child abuse. And Judge Prine had evidence that my ex-husband had been reported many times to CPS for physical abuse of our sons, and he still awarded him custody. I had also exposed the Texas Annual Conference for employing sexual predators at the time, and that was used against me in court. And what was said was that I had put the evidence out there about the Texas Annual Conference employing sexual predators because I was mentally ill. But disappointing as it may be to the Texas Annual Conference, they're really not qualified and to diagnose somebody with a mental illness. And my ex-husband, who is an electrical engineer, is also not qualified to diagnose somebody as a mental illness with a mental illness. And I did look up in the DSM-5, and there's nothing in there that's listed as a symptom for any psychiatric disorder for exposing a multi-billion-dollar administration under an evangelical denomination for sexual child abuse. I want to read one of the posts that the Domestic Relations Office has put out on Facebook, and they have been lying to the public for years. The Domestic Relations Office was honored with the 2025 Achievement Award from the National Association of Counties for its Family Community Supervision Program. The DRO Community Supervision Unit provides alternatives to incarceration for nonviolent offenders of family court orders. For 20 years, over 6,000 individuals have been placed on community supervision in the Harris County Family District Courts through the Domestic Relations Office. The program is a justice initiative success. Not only does the CSU divert individuals from incarceration, but it actively seeks to remove barriers that lead to court violations. Partnerships with the Texas Workforce Commission, Houston Community College, the Council on Recovery, Career Resources, and the Texas Attorney General's Office result in referrals for services that address a probationary need, provide hope, and give encouragement. Monthly meetings with trained probation officers ensure parents remain on track to success. Congratulations to Harris County and the DRO CSU team. Well, I was in the supervised visitation program. I was kicked out because I was not okay with being sexually harassed in front of my sons. I understand I probably deserved it. However, on the contrast, I don't think that my sons deserved to witness that. And I understand that the Texas Annual Conference felt that I deserved to be sexually harassed at one of their United Methodist churches while I visit my kids. However, that's not really something I wanted to relive, since I was sexually assaulted by my father, who was also employed at one time under the Texas Annual Conference administration. But I digress. So, one of the things I wanted to discuss is what are the odds that one person in those 6,000 parents would actually grow up in the Texas Annual Conference and would be very knowledgeable about the fact that the Texas Conference has had 3 clergy that have been indicted and sentenced. One for sexual assault of a minor. The other was for murder, was Michael Tabb. He was sentenced to 55 years. He murdered his wife in a Methodist parsonage. And yes, there were signs of abuse, and it was ignored by people within the Texas Annual Conference administration. Also, the first one I mentioned was Kendall Graham. There are always signs when it comes to abuse and domestic violence. There were signs that my father was abusing me. There were people within the conference administration that suspected that my father was abusing me, and those signs were ignored. Kirby John Caldwell was sentenced to 6 years in prison for wire fraud, and he still continues to have a relationship with the Texas Annual Conference and with the church that he formerly pastored. And I'm looking. Also, I have never had a probationary officer. I have never had a probation officer. Shocker. I know. Isn't it crazy? I mean, you could just look at me and think I must have had a probation officer, but I haven't. And the reason why I have never had a probation officer is because I don't have any history of arrest. I did receive psychiatric treatment, and that was after I visited my kids for months at a United Methodist church that was under the same administration that employed my father, which was the Texas Annual Conference, who sexually assaulted me. So I did. That was the final straw for me. And it was after I received psychiatric treatment that I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. It was actually complex PTSD because I've been exposed to repeated traumas. I never visited a probation officer. So this is a lie from the Texas, the Domestic Relations Office of Harris County. I have never had to visit a probation officer. And as far as violations, I didn't have any court violations. There were no court violations. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment. I was working a job, trying to get back on my feet after the retaliation and abuse I had put up with from my ex-husband, and after the retaliation that I had experienced from the Texas Annual Conference administration. And what happens with the Domestic Relations Office and the supervised visitation is it makes it difficult for you to get a job. It ruined my life. False accusations were made by my ex-husband, and I had insisted that our son needed psychiatric treatment, and he still hasn't gotten it, and he wants his brother to die, and nothing, absolutely nothing has been done about that. And I was kicked out because I exposed the Texas Annual Conference having involvement with the Domestic Relations Office. And I exposed the fact that I was having to endure sexual harassment at South Main Baptist Church by Jorge, I like to call him Pornhay, who was employed by the Domestic Relations Office. And I also experienced sexual harassment from a visiting parent named Shane, who was an absolute creep and would come on to me repeatedly at the visitations, would get in my face. I would have to take a step back. Clearly, he did not get it. And I was kicked out. I have not seen my sons in a year. Next, I'm going to play another, a recorded conversation. Okay.
Because you wouldn't be no room.
Okay.
But you can't bring a wagon full of stuff. Because you wouldn't be no room for nobody to walk around.
How are they working towards the best interest of the children in the visitation program if you're using Methodist churches that are underneath an administration?
I'm not going to answer. I am not going to answer those questions with you. We went over this, I don't know how many times with you, and chased you because you're not satisfied. So, ma'am, if you're not satisfied with us, how come you don't go somewhere else?
Okay, so the reason why I did not go somewhere else is because you have to book a visitation with a private supervised visitation organization, and it's $75 an hour. I don't have $75 an hour. So I would need to pay for supervised visitation. I mean, if the Texas Conference wants me in supervised visitation because I exposed them and they don't want me to see my kids, they could pay for the $75 an hour, or they could pay for an attorney and help me get this resolved. And it is hot, so I'm having to think about what I was going to say. I don't have AC on in here right now.
There's other programs out there.
In the best interest of the children, and
There'd be no room for nobody to walk around.
how are they working?
Oh, yeah,
towards
and
the
she
best
said
interest of
that
children
they
in the
had
visitation
tried,
program?
she was talking about the fact
Using
that
Methodist Church
I was not satisfied with the visitations. So I'm supposed to be satisfied with being sexually harassed in front of my sons at South Main Baptist Church, and I'm supposed to be satisfied with being sexually harassed in front of my sons at St. Stephen's United Methodist Church. Well, hell, if I'm supposed to be satisfied with that, they can just take me in a back room, have their way with me, rape me in the back room of a United Methodist Church, because clearly the Texas Annual Conference would seem to be experts on that, I guess, since they've employed sexual predators under their administration and placed them on assignment in their churches, like one pastor who had sex with a minor who was employed with the Texas Annual Conference administration. It was Kendall Graham. He had sex with a minor on the couch in his office, and he videotaped it while he was employed with the Texas Annual Conference administration. So clearly, I would be expected to be happy with being sexually harassed, because I guess the Texas Annual Conference would be assuming that I am a freak, just like their clergy that are employed under them, that have a history of sexually preying sexually on innocent victims. Let me play the rest.
that are
And change you because you're not satisfied. So,
Why would
ma'am,
the parent-
if you're not satisfied with us, how come you don't go somewhere else? There's other programs out
it's
there.
in the best interest of the children, and you also have evidence of child abuse against my ex-husband, who could choke our children at any time.
Yeah,
Every
that
time-
was way back in the years, and we don't even know nothing about that. So why don't you call CPS?
I have
If that- if
policies,
you-
yes, but policies also state that you are required to report any allegations of child abuse.
No, not from you. Not from you. Not if you say it.
It says any allegations. So
No.
yes,
No.
actually,
If the children come to us and tell us stuff, then we will do that.
And there you
We
go.
do not go by hearsay from you.
So if it comes from me, it's hearsay. What I say is not valid. This conversation took place right after I had contacted the conference office and reported the domestic relations office visitations and what was going on with that at St. Stephen's United Methodist Church, about how parents were being followed to the restroom. And this right here, that's a photo of Gwen Adams. That is who I was having that conversation with. She is over the supervised visitation of the domestic relations office. And Gwen Adams felt that I should be satisfied with being sexually harassed at the supervised visitation in front of my kids. And I guess the Texas Annual Conference felt the same way. And I wonder, this would be a question, my next question would be a question for the president of the Council of Bishops and for Bishop Cynthia Harvey. And that question would be, so who from the Texas Annual Conference told Gwen Adams not to take any allegations of abuse seriously from me? Anybody else, it's fine. Just don't take it serious from her, because that's against the law. First of all, that's discrimination. Second, it's against the law, because The people that work with the Domestic Relations Office, they are mandated reporters with the state of Texas. And so is anybody employed at a church and anybody employed with a denomination, like anyone employed in the Texas Annual Conference Administration. You guys are mandated reporters. So you are involved with supervised visitations with the Domestic Relations Office, and apparently it was communicated between somebody, because this was after I contacted the Texas Annual Conference and reported the fact that I was being forced to visit my kids at a United Methodist church. Parents were being followed to the restroom. Parents were being exploited right in front of their kids. I was one of them. And not only that, my father was a Methodist minister. I had a conversation with Elijah Stanzel about that, and I recorded the conversation. You see, Elijah Stanzel was a treasurer at one time, and has also been a district superintendent. I don't know if he is still now, but Elijah Stanzel knew about this. Nothing was done. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. So why is it that I should not be taken serious? I'm really curious about that. Also, I have another recording to play. Let me see. Here we go.
All right, Alex. What did he do?
He tried to kill me and choke me. He tried to choke me to death.
How did he try to choke you?
You know that counter search me. It's 3 days. Halloween is 3 days. But I scared that Halloween away. So it ran away. That just
Okay, listen to me, Alex. When did he try to choke you?
just today.
Okay, was it before you went to school or was it after school?
After school.
Okay, was it daylight outside?
Yes. But he choked me to death tonight.
He tried to choke you tonight?
Uh-huh.
How did he try to do that?
Like this.
He put his hands around your neck?
Uh-huh. Like it.
Hey, Alex, he did?
Yeah.
Why did he, what happened? Alex, what happened? Alex. Was he mad, Alex?
And one more.
Made me sick. He threw it up. Why'd you do that? Is it easier to keep me sedated so you didn't have to deal with me?
Yeah,
Is that what
Yeah.
was more convenient for you?
yeah,
Or was it so I wouldn't know that my dad was molesting me? Is that it?
yeah.
And that was my mother, Grace Dowden, who was married to my father, John Chester Dowden, who was employed under the Texas Annual Conference Administration. The first recording was my son describing his father putting his hands around his neck, making him think he was going to choke him and kill him. That conversation took place in 2016, and of course, nothing was done about it. That's all I have.